Okay, looks like we have everybody in at the moment. And before we actually kick off as well, if you can go ahead and look at your menu for Zoom and just familiarize a little bit with your options. I think you should see a hand raise as an option to participate. If you don't mind, please clicking on hand raise hand, so that way we can test that out. So I see some people already raising their hand electronically. Very good. Let's get 100% or as close as possible because that's going to be one way to engage with each other. And there we go. We're getting everybody in. We got a few more people. If you hover over your menu for Zoom, you should see a little hand, and you click on that hand, and that raises your hand. We got almost everyone except four people. That's great. Okay. And I believe the chat is on as well. So let's see if you are able to send a message via chat. You might just be able, yep, yes, it's on. All right. Chat goes here. Hello. Thank you. Hi. Test. Perfect. Perfect. So that's one way to engage as well. Excellent. Okay. And let me lower everybody's hand and let's just get started. So I think I know a lot of you and a lot of you know me, but just in case, my name is Pedro Trejo. Welcome everyone on behalf of the Illinois Soccer Referee Committee, who sponsors these type of educational opportunities. We have an important program called CEL, Continuing Education, Lifelong Learning, webinars, classrooms, field sessions, you name it. And Illinois ISRC behind the scenes, Jenny Miguel, he's one of our administrators, but the whole committee is involved one way or another, managers as well, referee coaches, referee mentors, in making sure in producing quality education opportunities. And hopefully you enjoyed tonight's session. Our topic today is mass confrontation. And this is actually part two. Last month we introduced the topic. This is a continuation. We're going to have a few video examples to analyze and to discuss. And this is a topic that was brought to our attention given a couple of youth matches in our state, in our leagues. And so again, we are addressing that issue through this sessions webinar. Okay, again, referee coach with US Soccer for several years. Glad to be here. Always enjoy the opportunity to share some of the knowledge, help our audience increase understanding, and then hopefully practice in their games and apply the new knowledge gained from these sessions. Okay, so again, we're going to focus on the basics. We only have about 45 minutes total, which 40 now probably. And so we're not going to be able to cover the full spectrum or full scope. We're going to still focus on the basics with a few examples of positive application or good application of the techniques, recommendations, guidelines when mass confrontation occurs in our youth games, adult games. Um, so let's get it started. Let's kick off with a couple of definitions. Again, some of you, if you were here last month, you probably saw something like this already. And so it's a little bit of review. If this is your first time, here it is for you. Two important components or definitions in this topic when we talk about mass confrontation. One of which is the game disrepute, typically one or two players involved, and with some aggressive action by one or both players towards each other, or sometimes towards the referee or a member of the referee team, could be the assistant referee. And in some matches where there is a fourth official at youth or adult events, it may be against the fourth official. But this game disrepute is pretty straightforward. It brings the focus to this aggressive actions and away from the game itself. And so it's an undesirable situation, obviously. And but again, it's different than mass confrontation, which involves a higher number of participants, players primarily. So when we get to three or more players, then we jump over to the realm of mass confrontation. And as before, the aggressive nature or discontent or irresponsible actions are towards the referee or a member of the referee team, or it could be against opposing or opposing players. And our focus tonight will be on the strategies of how to handle what to do when this mass confrontation happens. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we could talk about this topic for the whole day, and we could talk about preventative actions. We could talk about, you know, incidents or clues that kind of like give us hints that a mass confrontation is coming. So again, we're going to narrow the focus and we're going to say, okay, here's the mass confrontation. Now what? As referees, assistant referees, as a referee team, what do we do then? What do we do when it's here right in front of us? Okay, so that's the focus. All right. Let's see. Before we go on, let's use the chat and tell us yes or no. Have you encountered a mass confrontation in any of your games? I see a yes, yes, no, no, yes, thumbs up. Okay, it looks like many yeses. And there's probably a correlation between years of experience and the yeses, I would predict. Because sooner or later, I believe a large number of referees will encounter a situation as either referee, AR, or fourth official when there's fourth official in the games. That is not to say that these are common, like they happen every game. No, but I think sooner or later at events, or league play, is bound to happen to different degrees, right? Mass confrontation ranges from again three players, and it can last maybe a minute or two, or it could be the benches go all over the field and the game is terminated and etc. Right? So there's a range of the degree of severity, and again, one way or another. Uh, oh, somebody says more than once mass confrontation. Yep, same here, more than once. Okay, so then it's a relevant topic. Let's dive in. And here is basically the main idea, the main points that I would like you to take away with you, or that we're going to discuss as well, and that we're going to show examples and we want to focus on. And it's a four-step process, if you will. How many of you have heard of the triangle of control? Raise your hand with your electronic hand if you've heard about it. So we'll talk about what that is, how to apply it. Number two, focusing on not just where it started, but who is the person or the player that comes in as a third player in this situation. Okay. Um, so there's a couple of hands that were raised about triangle of control. So not a lot of people have heard of triangle control. Okay. And number three, who instigates, who is the aggressor, who initiates, who escalates, who's helping to de-escalate. Some players will go after their own players to get them out of trouble, if you will. So again, being observant, number three, to identify, the participants and what they did. And then number four, at the end, once the incident is calmed down, the issue has, settled, then we talk about punishment or misconduct, anywhere from warning, yellow card, red card, depending on the actions. And then, of course, very important to be as uniform as possible in applying this punishment. Okay. Oops. All right. Next. Triangle of control, as it sounds like it's a triangle. How many mathematicians in the audience? Raise your hand. Um, in theory, right, here you see an equilateral triangle. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Mueller. But in practice, as you're going to see in the video examples, it doesn't have to be a perfect triangle, equilateral triangle, that is, but some form of triangle. And the main idea is to be able to observe, right? Opponents typically, or who's the aggressor, who's coming to help, who's coming to instigate, who's de-escalating, who's adding more fuel to the fire. And for that, referee, assistant referee, you need to stay in motion back and forth, right? So that you can find that angle, if you will, to be able to see better. So that's the main brief basic concept in terms of forming a triangle of control. And obviously, depending on where the incident occurs, typically speaking, the referee is the first one in. So you got to be quick. Um, as soon as you see something strange, something different happening, get there as soon as you can. Try to diffuse it. So maybe it's those two players, and that's it. It doesn't go any further than that. Uh, Dr. Mueller, I prefer an isosceles with the ARs at the base angles. Prefer isosceles obtuse. There we go. For those of you mathematicians, that could be the case more in practice than what you see here in the figure. But again, the concept is the same. So thank you for that. Um, let's see. Yeah, so you typically, the referee would be the one, the first on the scene, if you will. And then usually the other AR nearest to where the incident happens will form the second post or the second block or the second side or intersection. And then lastly, the referee furthest away, the assistant referee furthest away. Some examples, if there's a fourth official, the fourth official may be the one to get there quicker or sooner. So again, it just varies a little bit depending on where that incident happens. Okay, so that's the triangle of control. And then again, monitoring who's involved in this, right? Sometimes it's pretty hazy or blur, like it's on this image. Who did it? Oh my gosh, what happened? So again, being focused, concentration, being alert, not being distracted. The referee takes on maybe the first two, right? Maybe the assistant referee closest monitors who's the third person coming in. So you kind of like, agree on who's going to do what. Um, so again, referee, because they're the first to the scene, they get the first one, the first two. And then ARs monitor who's the third player coming in. It's typically among players. And then the additional assistant referee, who else is coming. All of this while trying to diffuse, trying to, disseminate, um, uh, trying to guide people to go a different direction. Uh, and at the same time, without, adding more fuel to the fire, if you will, or adding more controversy or making it even worse than it might be already. Okay, very good. And then of course, for sure, you need to, who was the instigator, who really started everything. Okay, who aggressively decided to aggressively behave against yourself or referee team or another player, because they need to be addressed once everything's settled down. That's who you need to start with. If so it's very important that you maintain focus, um, and again to support each other as team. If maybe you miss someone, that's why there's a triangle, so that you can support each other in terms of exchanging information, taking notes during this triangle of control. Who did that what? Who was the player um, exhibiting positive actions, trying to help diffuse the situation? And on the other hand, which of the players took negative action, right? Trying to instigate more or others, etc. Okay. And then lastly, it's connected because once you identified who are the guilty parties, then you as a referee team, as a referee, apply the misconduct. But in some cases where needed, consult with your assistants prior to issuing misconduct, and you might get confirmation of what you saw. You might get additional information that, oh, this other player was involved as well. And so this way, it's better for you to have all of that information, stay calm, collected, issue the misconduct, starting with the instigator, anyone who retaliated immediately, and then the third person in if they were there to cause more trouble, right? And again, as I mentioned, it could be anywhere between warning, yellow card, red card, depending on what that action is. Okay, so and then uniformly, right? If you're going to punish one for a certain action and then another of the other opposing team is the same action, let's make it uniform and let's make it fair as much as possible. It gets tricky when one of those players already has a caution, right? It's harder to make it uniform. It's more challenging, and maybe you can make it uniform because they already have. But at least for the mass confrontation incident, it'll be uniform. It could be a red and a red, it could be a yellow and a yellow, it could be a warning and a warning. But if there is enough evidence or enough situation where somebody deserves another card, then it could be 2-1, 2-1 in some cases. Okay. Um, I'll pause for a moment and any questions, any thoughts, use the chat, please, before we get into video examples in the next half hour. There's got to be a question or a comment. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Michael. How far of a distance do you recommend for triangle? Good question. So safe enough distance for you individually and for your teammates as a whole, right? And again, the triangle of control is once it became three or more, then you tried already to guide people away from each other, um, or diffuse as much as you could. Then at this point you're backing away, and then now you're observing and stay in motion, right? Calm and collected, but in motion to find the angle, and anywhere between 4 yards or more, depending on how much is needed, depending on what's happening, right? But you want to stay safe, and you don't want to, you know, accidentally bump into other players, etc. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Please, another question while we switch over to the video examples. Let me see if I think we have a question. How do you recommend to stay on the field if the mass confrontation moves off the field? This is a good specific situation. Again, as much as possible, keep that triangle. But again, if there are fans or if there are benches and you're unable to move in those directions, then obviously it's going to be still probably a triangle, but with the three of you on the field and observe as much as you can. So yeah, in some of those situations, it could be, uh, interesting on how to best, do the movement, the position to be able to observe, to be able to see. So you have to be creative, innovative at some points. But again, remain safe is the number one consideration or message. Okay. Whistle use to subdue. Yes, early on, first use the whistle, but again, in a calm, collected manner, trying to get attention, using body language while doing the whistle, right? You want to stay away from, frantically blowing the whistle without any, uh, purpose or clarity. Again, use body language as well to support that whistle. But then once the triangle is, once you reach the triangle stage, that means that, okay, you tried already before it escalated. And once you're in the triangle, then you don't whistle anymore. Maybe you use verbal communication. But again, you always want to remain calm. You don't want to add more. You want to use short phrases or words. Stop, number six, or move away, back away, things like that. So that's very good. That's very good. Good questions. I'm glad. Thank you for that. And now let's get started with example one. And let's see your thoughts after we observe this video. Ooh, okay. All right. All right. So some of the things that we talked about, we can clearly see there, or at least, I see some of that there. Let's pick a few participants. Please raise your hands, and then we'll bring you into the conversation. Uh, we need about two or three people to raise their hand so you can comment on the video. We'll watch it again together, and then let's see what you see in terms of the steps that we talked about, and how well do you think the referee team did in terms of triangle, diffusing, getting there quickly, instigator, who escalates, who helps, etc. Do we have anyone available, Jenny? Oh, I see Jason, and I see who's this? Nat? Are you able to unmute yourself?
I
Uh,
should be unmuted.
All right.
and and likewise.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so tell us, give us one or two thoughts in terms of this incident, and also in terms of what we discussed already or what I presented already, uh, and then we'll start with Jason. Or we can start with Nat.
Nope.
Oh, Jason, go
I was
ahead.
just waiting. I was just waiting for the end of the video.
Okay, go ahead.
So of course, you can't see the triangle of control early on, but you can see it here. So
Okay,
obviously, they created it pretty quickly. When I start to look at, who's involved and what's important, I feel like the white player was the most aggressive at the end of the day.
okay,
With the contact, it seemed to be a little equal at the beginning. And when it came to this corner, I love how the referee got closer because she sees this volatile situation that could happen here. So she gets in closer to see it. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the referee turns her head too quickly to follow the ball instead of staying, oh, something's going to happen back here. And I understand why she turned her head. I just would have loved for her to stay with the play a little bit longer because back here is where the action happened.
okay.
I would say that
Very
the
good.
black player also was retreating more so. So again, I'm going to go with the yellow player or the white player as being more aggressive.
Okay, very good points, Jason. Very good observations. Thank you for that. And again, this is where it's it continues, right? Because it started, like you said, where they're challenging for the ball in the corner, etc. But then this is where they both fall on the ground, right? The white player and the player in the black shirt. Uh, and then, as you described, you absolutely, even though there's proximity of the referee, but the ball is out, and so there's some extracurricular activities, right? After they get up. And so yeah, spot on in terms of those points, Jason. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Nat, is it Nat?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
What to add in terms of what we discuss? Nat, go ahead,
So,
please.
so the player in black was definitely not an angel. She definitely swung back. I noticed number 15 in black came in as the third player in. Um, and the goalkeeper for white was trying to escort her excited teammate out of the area. So she was trying to act as a bit of a pacifier. Um,
Who was that again?
the goalkeeper for white
Yes,
was,
yes. Good, good, good.
you know, trying to escort the number 9 out of there. I mean, sometimes they try to escort the player out. Oh, maybe the ref will forget who it was. So you got to
Yeah.
take numbers.
Yes. Excellent, excellent. So Nat, Jason, good observation, good points. Michael is in. I know you send a note before we address your note on the chat, Michael. What else can you add besides what Jason and Nat added, and what we should consider? And remember those one, two, three, four items that I went over, just checking to see if anything else.
Can you hear me okay, Pedro?
Yes.
Yeah, not sure if I'd add that much else to what the last two folks have said. I thought the referee crew did a good job of getting involved as early as they thought that they could. My comment, I think, would be a different solution, a little more pragmatic and maybe preventative. But I know the other thing to note though, like I don't know that there's anything that crosses the line to where I would even, and maybe this is another point of discussion, but was there anything that happened there that is even a cautionable offense? And would you give a caution to any of the players? So when you talk about being fair and equitable in your decision, is there a decision that you even need to make? Like, can you deal with this without cards? Like, I would argue yes. But I think what I posted in my comments would be an even better solution.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll get to that in a minute, Michael. Thank you so much as well. And anyone else in the that can use the chat, is there a third person in? Um, those of you in the chat or prefer the chat, yes or no, is there a person in?
Yeah, 15 was definitely in.
Yes. Who's that, Nat? So is
Yes.
this player right here, right? Because these two, the one where it all started, are already moving away, but then somebody's not ready to end it. Yeah. And so we talked about who is the third person, if you will. So this could be considered the third person in, even though things are already like, pretty much. But really, again, it kind of restarts. It starts with two players, game disrepute. We talked about that. But then it becomes after this third player comes in, right? Then more players come in, right? Even the referee is already there. Uh, so yeah, absolutely. And then referees is doing using their own body. They feel safe enough and their hands to sort of create barrier to try to, prevent escalation, trying to de-escalate, and to a certain level, to a certain degree, it works. But then the goalkeeper, yes, she's a hero, right? We should be glad we have her on our side, really. And she pulls up. She really takes that player. Who is that first player, Matt? I think you mentioned maybe trying to get them away from potential misconduct. Yeah, because she was the first one involved, wasn't she? Okay. And so another point here is we see this referee without a flag, so they are most likely. Oh no, sorry, that is the other assistant referee, isn't it? And so they were able to make the yeah, that is the flag right there. The triangle, and I think Dr. Mueller, you mentioned something about obtuse or so on. So maybe this is an example. But up on the top, you see assistant referee also, dealing with a couple of other players. Uh, here, everybody's moving away from each other. So I think things are settling down. And then let's go to Michael's comment. If we from the beginning, if right maybe here we adjust as referees our threshold of what is careless or what is fair, right? Is that Michael where you were alluding to or trying to
Yeah, I
get?
think so. I guess where my brain goes is nothing good happens there. Like once there's three players, so you've got an uneven number of players on one team in that position, and it appears to be the attacking team. Like, what good comes out of that situation other than what happens here? Like, no one's scoring from there. There's no promising attack. The play is stagnant. So why not get even closer and whistle for a simple foul, ball coming out, and you avoid all of that entirely?
Mm-hmm.
So I would
And
have argued
I
more presence by the referee would have been appropriate.
hmm Yeah, I agree with you that in many cases, and this seems to be one of them, where a simple foul, for careless push, uh, maybe holding perhaps, uh, right, could potentially because so far everybody's okay, if you will, but it's after the ball is clear and then two players who are kind of like obstructing one is the other and they still want to keep moving and now they go to the ground, then that erupts right into the game disrepute and then a third person not being happy and then mass confrontation. But I absolutely agree that in many cases, and this seems to be one of them, where a simple foul, and in addition, as you mentioned as well, Michael, maybe uh, verbal communication, right? In our games, youth, adults, I think verbal communication will go a long way because there's not a lot of noise, and they can hear us a little bit better. Where as opposed to where there's a bunch of fans or drums or noise they could hear. Boris, you had your hand up, please. Are you able to unmute?
Yeah, I mean, Michael and you both kind of beat me to the punch on that. I was simply going to add that, as it goes in the corner, that nothing's going to happen there. Get close and verbalize. I'm watching, and leave it up to them now that you're watching, and then if you see even a slight thing, call it coming out, because if that ball just stays in and doesn't go out, it's gonna get escalate, and then definitely after that ball does leave, you need to linger just a little longer to make sure everyone's running away and playing on instead of. I think she missed that first takedown, and that should have been the foul called right away, and then maybe everything doesn't escalate after that.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for that, Boris. And so again, there will
You
be
have
other
water on your back?
situations. Oops. Somebody had a comment?
Oh, I do.
Is that you, Ben?
No, somebody
Oh,
else I think
okay.
doesn't know they're on.
Okay.
There's just
All right, Ben, anything else to add in terms of the geometry or triangles and theory?
I was just kidding about the obtuse triangle. I wasn't. I just wanted to throw those terms in there.
No, but in practice, it is a little bit different, right, than what we saw on that diagram in
Well, I
theory.
think I would ask, for those that maybe aren't doing the big games, is it appropriate for the referee to touch the players to break up a fight? Should the referee touch the players? Should they step between players that are fighting?
Very good question.
Especially when you have a situation where, you might have a male officiating female games. So what would, and it looks like in this scenario, you had a female referee who kind of like got between the players, touched them a little bit. What's the proper protocol when we're doing youth games in particular as an adult referee or vice versa, or, when we're dealing with those situations?
Yes, very good question. I'm glad you brought it up. And so, what we want to do as best as we can with youth players is to avoid contact, right? Because nowadays with cameras everywhere and different sensitivity levels and all that is better to avoid any potential misunderstanding, accidental contact, etc. So better to stay safe and avoid any contact. And you're right. I think in this situation, at the professional level, it's a little bit different in terms of because they're adults, so there's an expectation, there's an understanding to a certain degree. But she does well just to call their attention in the upper body, and then just extends her body, as a barrier rather than be moving towards the adult player. So, and again, in adult situation in our games, you know, uh, remain safe, right? And again, there's different levels of sensitivity. Somebody, if you tap them in the shoulder, that may be enough to trigger something, and they could explode. And so we never know in that case. So the recommendation is to avoid touching players as much as possible. Uh, even to try to de-escalate or diffuse using verbal communication, using the whistle, as much as possible. And then just to summarize, thank you everybody, by the way. Very good discussion. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah, just to kind of summarize here a little bit, when the incident turns from game disrepute, two players only, and racist because there's a third person in and goes in there. Be observant, form the triangle as much as you can, identify those instigators, the aggressors, the third person in, right? And it seems like they fell first on the ground, they got up, they weren't happy, there was some verbal exchange, then there was a little bit of a push here. And to Michael's point earlier, does this merit misconduct? Well, if you consider that it wasn't aggressive enough, it may, but based on the video evidence, maybe this is simply a warning, bringing those two players, hey, to show them and to tell everyone that this is not accepted and that at least it merited a warning. Uh, but ignoring it may not be the best, or it's not the best choice for the most part, because then, it might give the impression that, oh, okay, it's a free for all. No, let's address it. Again, warning, caution, or send off, depending on the action. Not necessarily the time. I think somebody had a comment that the caution would depend on the time, the atmosphere. That is a factor, but I think predominantly, what is the action? What is the amount of force used, the contact used, and sometimes it could be the language, offensive, abusive, insulting, right? But again, if we're not there to witness or hear what happened, then it would be very, very difficult. Okay. All right, let's go to example 2. And let's see what we think on that. Let me share here. It's gonna be a little choppy. It's not your computer. But again, we're not looking at foul or no foul. We're looking at mass confrontation and the topics that we talked about. Okay. Let's please have a couple of people, new people, other than the ones that have already shared, to give an opportunity. Raise your hand, and we'll bring you in to discuss, in a similar way. Thinking about what we talked about for the other example, what we talked about before the videos, and then, of course, focusing on this incident. Who will raise their hand so we can join on the conversation? All right, we have one. And we have two, I think. Yep. We'll start with Tyler and then Ben. So, Tyler, give us a couple of things. One, two things that stand out to you. And again, relate this incident relating to either one, two, three, or four on those four steps that we talked about. Go ahead, please. Make sure you unmute yourself, Tyler.
Oh, yeah. So it was just the two of them, but then the additional blue player came over to kind of hold white player as he thought white player was being unfair. My initial, I didn't see any additional players, but run over. I don't know, might have just been those three. There another one comes from the north, so it was more two blues. Oh, 2-on-2.
Okay. Very good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And the referee, I would assume he had his assistant referee down in the line, so he immediately goes to the far end right there, and he probably had a fourth official there, so that kind of did some way to get a triangle going. I feel like right before it happened, the referee kind of adjusted his position 10 feet to get a better look at the backs of the numbers and who was involved.
Very good. Thank you so much, Tyler. And I'm glad you're practicing already those observation skills, right? Like who was there first, who came later, what did they do? And then there was that other from one team and then from the other team. What did they do? And then very good. Absolutely. And you're right. We only see two officials here. I think maybe potential improvement is for the assistant referee to come on. Um, and sometimes it varies on what the league wants or what the PRO or the specific referee group wants to do. But I think there's an opportunity potentially to have the third official in to make that triangle. Excellent. Well, very well done, Ben.
Yeah, I think the referee did a decent job here. Got to the spot quickly.
Yes.
I'm assuming
Yes.
a nice loud whistle was blown. I'm on my smartphone, so it's really small, so I can't really see exactly, but I'm assuming a nice loud whistle was blown several times. And kind of just let the players sort it out, which
Yep.
at this level, oftentimes the players will sort it out. Um, I'm assuming that there were ARs that were watching and that they were on, that they talked about the numbers that should get the cautions. And I'm assuming that's kind of what happened there. But looks like a lot of pushing and jostling and stuff. Don't see anything that was super violent, so I'm good with the cautions on that. So so yeah, I'm giving kudos to the referee on that one. I would have liked to seen the ARs a little closer, but we couldn't see them in that camera angle. But with the fourth official present, that might change a bit as well.
Very good. Thank you for that, Ben. And we have a couple of more hands up, Everardo and Shane. I'm not sure. It might take a little bit before we get you in. But yes, spot on in terms of Ben and Tyler. Uh, and this one was more clear, right? Like the step four, which is after all is said and done, who is deserving of misconduct or punishment. And in this case, uniform punishment, yeah, because it starts off with that blue player getting the ball when it's not the free kick, but I think the other player as well, use their body and maybe said things or cause more issues as well. Uh, so, Everardo, are you in? And who else is in? Who was the other one? Shane.
It was me. Let him go first. I was just gonna point something out.
Yeah.
No, yeah, basically, the first guy who was describing everything that happened first, like how the referee got there quickly, and yeah, he said that well, and giving both players the yellow card. caution for their actions, for basically overreacting. I mean, that player should have just like not retaliated and just let it go because he got the foul, but instead he just chose to act a fool, and that's what caused him to get the yellow as well. And that's how you basically calm down both situations. Anyways, by giving both the yellow, that strong warning, and then just move on like that.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, in this case, it was whether it was a warning or not, but the caution was the more severe. But yes, very good. Shane.
So just two things I want to point out. So number 4, blue, ultimately is the one that is starting, quote unquote, the incident because of what he does. Right? He commits a foul,
Yep.
and then what does he do? The yellow card isn't for anything careless or reckless. It's not for the foul itself. What is he doing to prevent the player from the player in white from doing next, right? He is delaying the restart. So that prevents the player from taking a quick kick, the team in white. So
Yep.
he's getting a caution ultimately for delaying a restart, right? So
Good.
we have to understand what we're looking at. So when he gets the caution for delaying the restart, what the player in white's getting a caution for is escalating the situation and making it a mass confrontation, right? So the referee is going to deal with the situation, but because the player in white escalates it, that is ultimately what the caution is for. So we need to understand when we get these types of situations, we can't just throw 2 yellow cards out because the players were involved first. You have to understand what you're cautioning and why.
Excellent point, Shane. Thank you very much. Well said. Well done. And here's a close up, right, of what you were saying. So the player delays the restart after the foul, and then how potentially aggressive this other player tries to get the ball by making contact with that opponent and continuing that escalation. So well done. Thank you. All right. I think that was everyone in terms of this clip. We have one more to go, and I think we're running out of time, but let's get it in real quick. So good conversation, everybody. And we'll get this last one in a little bit quicker. And again, keeping in mind what we've discussed. Here we go. All right, let's get someone that hasn't spoken yet, really quick. Raise your hand. Is this the same match? This is a different match, actually. Different referees. Yeah. Yeah, good observation, though, in terms of uniform colors. Yes. Okay. We have Kevin. Ooh, Kevin. 30 seconds, Kevin. Please unmute yourself.
All right, am I there?
Yes.
All right, start that timer. So the way I look at this, he remained very calm. He stayed back to where he had full view of what was going on. You can see him walking around, looking at people, trying to see numbers on the back of jerseys. He knew what he wanted to do, even though he wasn't involved from the standpoint of separating people. Didn't have hands up, wasn't being a barrier at all. It looked like he was in full control of what was going on, and of course, it didn't escalate on the pitch. So he knew exactly what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. And I don't think he was going to have any questions after that. So I just think he did a great job there.
Excellent. Well, very good point. Exactly right. We talked about that, and this is a good example of, the
You're
demonstrate.
muted, Pedro.
Oh, can you hear me now? Test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Pedro.
Okay. Good point, Kevin. Thank you so much for that. And this referee Armando, he demonstrates this calm demeanor, observation, like Kevin said, looking for numbers, looking for who's doing what and the other. So very good. Do we have anyone else that wants to share briefly because we're running out of time?
I would just say that the AR was trying to break something up, and then he went to a safer place and escaped a little bit.
Yes, that's a great observation. Excellent. Tell us more if you can,
Well, I
as we
feel like
review.
might have felt like he was going to get threatened, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm going to back off."
Yep, he jumps away. He jumps away. So you're right. And then we talked about it briefly. As much as we can, whether we referee or assistant referee, de-escalate, separate, guide to a different direction. But if they keep going and they choose to do something different, out of the way, back out. And then of course you had two of them here as part of the triangle. We don't see if there was a third match official. Good observations. Very, very good discussion. Please put in the chat if you have any other comment. We ran out of time in terms of our session today, but I believe we accomplished our goal in terms of covering the basics, expanding a little bit, part two, the basics of mass confrontation, of when it happens. We touched a little bit on preventative. Sometimes, some examples you could prevent, but others, you just have to face the mass confrontation and what do you do, right? So we have, I think, maybe time for one or two questions before we have to wrap it up. So please raise your hand if you have a question or put it in the chat. We might be able to um, address it. Again, we don't have a lot of time, but we'll entertain one or two questions, please. Ben, thank you as well. Dr. Mueller, thank you so much. All right, so maybe pretty straightforward. Then let's go ahead and conclude and wrap it up. What I want you to take away, as we talked about it at the beginning and as we discussed during the three examples, is once it goes to get mass confrontation from game disrepute, that's the cue to apply the triangle of control. And obviously talk about that with your crew before the game, so that in case there is a situation, then you guys have an idea, what we're gonna do, what you're gonna do together. And it's not just finding the position to form the triangle, but observing, right? Referee, more often than not, will get the first, second involved, but assistant referees must get the third person, third player in, okay, and help. And then what is it that they're doing that Shane mentioned, right? One of them is delaying the restart. One of them is aggressively trying to get the ball. So that may result in equal punish, not just a warning in that case, but a yellow card for each for that game. So again, identifying who the participants are, what they're doing, because in some cases, like a goalkeeper in one of the examples, they might be helping the situation and de-escalating and grabbing their own player. That's good. And then ultimately coming together as needed. Sometimes the referee already has the card out because they already know the original foul merit the caution, or the third person in, the aggressive nature merits the caution. So that's okay. Sometimes showing the card tends to, help with de-escalating, calming things down. And in some cases, it might be a red card that you might be holding out, but you can't issue it yet because there's commotion. And the case we saw, it was a yellow card. And Kevin mentioned how Armando is calmly moving around. Yes, trying to get away from someone who's bleeding or trying to distract, perhaps. But he's focused and concentrated on those players involved and maybe who else is coming. Okay, so those are the four items that I want you to take away with you and share with your teammates whenever you're whenever you're officiating matches together, youth matches, adult matches, regardless of the league. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank Jenny, ISRC, for again putting these together, collaborating with referee coaches and mentors, putting these kind of education sessions together. Take care of each other out there on the field. Stay safe, and then we'll see you next month in our next Cell webinar series. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pedro.